Okay, so now that everyone has a Hydroid Prime, I thought that I should have a little look at all the looters that exist in the game, and try to do my best to determine which one I think is best. First off, what do I mean when I say looter? Well, for the sake of this video, a looter is any Warframe that can increase the total amount of drops from enemies. There are 3 in the game at the present. There is Necros, Korra, and Hydroid. Okay, first and foremost, we have Necros. It's the one that everybody thinks of when you say looting frames, because you can just pick it up, craft it, kill Lephantis, and boom, you're ready to go. He has the ability to easily move around whilst his loot boosting ability is activated. It does not require any kind of mod to use, you can just pick up your Necros and go out, straight away use it. However, it does best shine when you use the augment for it, which causes it to drain your health instead of energy. Now, that does sound a bit counterintuitive at first, until you realise that there's a lot of things out there that can drain your energy, whereas everything that has to drain your health has to go through your shields to do so. Well, almost everything. It does boost the loot by 65%, which is not quite as good as Hydroid. However, this can be increased by using a high slash weapon to mutilate your enemies into several parts. But on the other side, lots of people use him as a result of this, and he does not stack with other Necroses. If you have multiple Necroses in a party all using their Desecrate ability, they will not produce 65% extra loot each. It would just produce 165%. Next, let's look at Hydroid. Now, he is incredibly easy to obtain. As we've already established, everyone should have a Hydroid Prime. Well, not everyone, but most people have a Hydroid Prime. If you don't, you can easily go to Earth, kill Vahek a few times, and pick yourself up a nice Hydroid that way. It won't be Prime, but it's still fairly easy to obtain. It's one of the first bosses that you can do. His 100% loot bonus comes from a mod known as Pilfering Swarm. Now, this does require the mod to be equipped, so it does slightly limit the amount of mod capacity that you have, down to 7 or 8 if you're using an Exilus adapter, plus, depending on what aura you're using, around about 62-ish capacity of these builds. 65% extra loot per enemy, not per corpse. He also cannot move, and can only place down his 4 at one specific location. He's also limited by the amount of enemies that he can ensnare with his tentacles and therefore get extra loot from. It doesn't do an amazing amount of damage, and the tentacles aren't the most reliable at ensnaring and therefore dropping extra loot. And finally we have Korra. Now, she requires a mod, like Hydroid, in order to get the full extent of her looting capabilities. And unlike Hydroid, however, this loot chance is more akin to Necros's, his 65%. However, there is no way to increase this. With Necros, using a high slash weapon to chop your enemies into several pieces, you could increase it because they would count as separate corpses for his Desecrate ability. But as far as Korra is concerned, however, she can place multiple chains and therefore guard multiple choke points, which means it synergizes better with other builds. I made sure to follow a very standard scientific process. Each frame got 3 chances on the exact same tile, on the exact same map, in the exact same dark sector, and they were all tested within exactly 10 minutes. the second the 10-minute marker popped up, I would stop killing, I would stop looting, I would stop everything, and I would just walk straight to extraction. I would not pick up anything else. I did not take any kind of Kavat or other companion that may increase loot, as this could have skewed the results from the drastic RNG. And I'm aware that because I only did 3 runs, the RNG could be a little bit fiddly here, but I didn't want to invest any more time than I already did. I'd already invested, what? As you can see, I rated each frame by how much of each of these resources were collected. Salvage, hexanon, alloy plate, and neural sensors. That can't be right, hang on. No, that is right, okay. Just double checking my thing. I've then used 2 scripts, a total, which is just a standard sum of these 3, these 3, these 3, these 3, and an average, which it basically adds all of these together and then divides them by the total number. So in this case, it adds all these 3 numbers together and then divides them by 3. And as a result, we have the average of each loot and the total of each loot. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the first one that I experimented with, which was Cora. Now, when I was playing Cora, I have to admit I was a bit of a rookie. I wasn't completely sure how to use her abilities at first. It took me about maybe 30 seconds to acclimatize and figure out exactly how to use them. But once I did, she started working a charm. As you can see, the salvage dropped a really nice amount. All cards on the table. I did have loot boosters activated during this, both loot boosters. However, they were active for all 3 Warframes. So this might be 2 or even 4 times the amount that you would get without boosters. But all that does is beef up the numbers, multiplies them by 4. It doesn't actually change the ratios. So for salvage, the average that we got was 22,208 per 10-minute run. Hexanon, let's just call that 185 because I can't be arsed with recurring numbers. Alloy plate, we got an average of 2,974, and neural sensors, we got an average of about 13. Now for 10 minutes, that's not bad at all, and this was solo, by the way. Every single one of these, I also went in solo to mitigate outside factors like other players dropping or increasing drop rates with other frames, or just by wandering away to other locations, and thus lowering the amount of enemy spawns I get. So, for someone who's making a clan dojo, 3,000 alloy plate every 10 minutes, I can agree with that. That's a very nice number. Okay, so next, the one that everyone should have by now, Hydroid. As you can see from his numbers, he is a little less inspiring. This is because his tentacles were a bit less, what's the word, reliable than Cora. Cora's 4 ensnared every enemy that walked into it, but Hydroid's 4 did not. Cora's 4 also dealt more damage to the enemies, meaning more could spawn in their place much quicker, allowing for a faster turnover of enemies and therefore more loot by the end of the 10 minutes. As you can see, Run 2 suffered an abysmal tanking of its rates, just owing to the fact that I got downed. I got downed once, and then when I revived there was a parasite, which drained all my energy. So I had to spend about 30 seconds killing it, building up my energy again. And so I literally got half the normal salvage. Alloy Plates was just terrible in general for Hydroid. I don't know why. I've got a feeling this is just one of those freakish blips on the radar. But I can only work with the numbers that I've got. So, overall, my average per run, or rather my average per 10 minutes with Hydroid, 17,096 salvage, 148 hexanon, call it 1,803 alloy plates, and 8 neural sensors. It's not looking great for Hydroid, but he does still increase the amount of loot. Maybe not as much as people think, but he does. Now, Necros. Necros is the one that everybody uses. You're farming anything, you are going to encounter a Necros in maybe 8 out of 10 matches. He's versatile, like I said, with a high slash weapon, he can increase those odds. There's a lot of reasons why people go for Necros. But when I was using him, I found that I got on an average 19,517 salvage, which is slightly less than Korra. Hexanon, however, I got slightly more at a 217 on average. Alloy Plate, however, again lower than Korra, with a 2,594, and the neural sensors came in at an average of 9 every 10-minute run. Which means, if I were to rank these 3 frames over which one is the best at looting, I would have to say Korra is the best, Necros is the second best, Hydroid is the worst, even though he's not bad, he's just not as good as Korra. All of these tests, as I've said, were done in solo. But what if you took multiple frames in there? Well, as it's hard to organize this sort of thing, I can't say with absolute certainty that what I'm about to say is 100% factually accurate. However, based on these figures, again, small sample size, RNG could have skewed them, so based on these figures, the ideal looting team, the best way to farm lots of things very quickly is to take Korra and Necros in a party together. Now why? Well, Korra has an ability that I have not mentioned, which is incredibly synergistic with Necros. Korra's cat, Venari, has 3 potential abilities: attack, defend, and heal. So what, you say? What does this have to do with how Korra and Necros work well together? Well, you can specifically tell Venari to heal a specific teammate, or you can tell it to heal all of your teammates if you have several. Which means if you set up Venari to specifically heal Necros, Necros can just turn on his Desecrate ability with a Despoil Augment, which is the augment that makes it use health, and then he never has to turn it off. Meanwhile, Korra can place her Strangledoms on the choke point of whatever map you're playing on, whichever tile you've chosen to camp in. Now what does that mean exactly? Well, it means Necros will be multiplying your loot by 65%, or rather 165%, and Korra will also be multiplying that loot by 165%. Now, I'm pretty sure these are additive, but again, I'm not 100% sure, because it's hard to experiment with this sort of thing solo. But I am almost completely certain that Korra and Necros are additive, not multiplicative. Multiplicative? They add, they don't multiply. But that still means that you are easily, without any additional setup beyond getting the 2 augments and using your ability on Necros, you are getting 230% of your possible loot. But wait, there's more. Korra's pilfering strangledom only requires enemies to be ensnared in the chains upon their death. What this means exactly is, Necros can use a high slash weapon, and so can Korra. Which means when your enemies die in the pilfering strangledom, the high slash weapon will slash them in 2, and then you have 2 corpses for Necros to desecrate. Meaning that you essentially get 3 procs of this 65% chance. Hey guys, this is closer to the present version of Wolfie here. This video took a ridiculously large amount of time to make. I actually only expected it to take a few days, but it wound up taking at least 2 weeks at this point, in order to make it. So I would really appreciate it if you leave a like or a comment, and if this helped anyone out there, please do share it around. Obviously, the stats in this video are a very small sample size, so statistical anomalies can completely change the outcome. I would have liked to spend more time experimenting with the frames in question, but just looking at the amount of editing I've had to do for this version, it would have been ridiculously longer if I'd have gone into more detail, and this video would likely have never come out, and I would have just burned out entirely on this entire thing long before I succeeded at finishing this video. That being said, I really do hope this helped, because I poured my fucking heart and soul into this. If this did help you, please do leave a like. As always though, I have been me, you have been you, and feel free to leave a comment calling me a noob if you can't think of anything else to say. Goodbye!